YouTube frogs, Cipher is finally here and she's the next installment of juicy debuffs alongside true damage output, in a unique way we haven't seen from Nihility characters. In this video we'll be going over everything you need to know about Cipher in a digestible fashion and showcasing her power at E0. This is going to be done on the creator experience server, and of course that means things are subject to change for full release, so keep that in mind. Let's start off with a full guide on how Cipher works. So, first off, Cipher's entire gameplay identity is basically the more damage your allies do, the more damage she does. She's the next installment of true damage and the ongoing meta of including high damage output on supportive style characters. This time we're going back to Nihility characters, and this means old school classics like Acheron and Fei Xiao might be getting an upgrade. Cipher's main focus is on that tooltip number. The higher the number, the more damage she'll output on her next ultimate. That number grows higher the more damage all your allies do, including herself, meaning that essentially she scales with the strength of your team. And just by being on your team, she has a trace passive that grants 40 vulnerability % to all enemies. This is not a debuff, it's just an aura that she provides. Think like Tribby, except there's no skill or ultimate needed to activate it. It just exists if she's alive on the battlefield. Now, the Nihility part of her kit is kinda secondary. She does have a debuff in it, but the base chance is really high and the debuff itself is not that impactful. What is impactful is the debuff on her signature light cone, and has the same high chance as her kit, making your effect hit rate investment pretty low and stable. The way that she plays feels kinda similar to Tribby in a way, with aura debuff, true damage output, but in her own unique style. The one thing that she does lack in though is survivability. Kinda reminds me of the good old Ting Yun days. That being said, she has a very easy to understand kit with a hefty amount of nuance in her ultimate, which in my opinion makes her really cool and uniquely strong as a character. So let's take a look at what exactly goes on with Cipher. When you first check her out in combat, you'll notice a couple immediate things. If you activate her technique beforehand, it simply deals AoE quantum damage and increases her tooltip number a little bit. It's not inherently that strong, but the technique is passive buff, so it's free to use before any major battle. Once in combat, Cipher's role is very straightforward. The second you arrive into battle, she applies her special unremovable debuff called Patron, which is the gold coin on top of the enemy to the highest HP on field. This marks them, and any damage dealt to them will have a greater portion of damage converted to her tooltip. Other enemies will still convert damage, just at a smaller amount. Now, she can change the enemy that is marked at any time with her skill or her ultimate, which may be useful for repositioning attacks to get the most out of her conversion. And that's basically it until her actual ultimate is ready. So, she will be moving pretty fast, so her default turns are mainly basic attacks or skill, unless you need to swap the mark or you have excess skill points that you want to use. When another ally attacks, she'll also proc a follow-up attack and can do this once per her own turn. Once her ultimate is ready, she will deal her base ultimate damage and all of the tooltip damage split amongst up to 3 enemies, including the primary target. So it's kind of like a bounce/blast move, since if there's only one target, all the damage actions will focus fire that single target. We'll dive into the actual ult details in the traces. If you go into character details, you can actually see the exact amount of recorded damage, and notice that the tooltip is roughly the recorded amount divided by 1000. And that's basically her kit, rinse and repeat. You may be wondering, where's the actual debuff since she's a Nihility character? So, that's a part of her skill and her signature light cone if you have it. Her skill is a minor debuff to enemies, and same with her light cone, which ironically enough doesn't have much to do with this core part of her kit, so yeah. Overall, Cipher is an Enforius upgraded Nihility path type character with raw vulnerability aura and true damage incorporated into her kit. In my opinion, she's a great addition to debuff or high action carries like Fei Xiao or Acheron, and also has very splashable utility for many other team comps. The more I play her, the more she feels like a Tribby, but with an active playstyle, less buffs, but a lot more personal damage. Now that you have a general grasp of what Cipher does, let's dive into the nitty-gritty trace details. Talent. This describes the gold coin icon called Patron and the details behind her follow-up attack. Patron is marked right away and can change with her skill or ultimate. 12% of the damage done to Patron is converted to her tooltip. The follow-up attack is 1 proc per turn, and her tooltip number is cleared after every ult. Technique. She's got a really cool sneaky technique that allows her to be invisible and steal stuff from nearby enemies. You can steal up to 50 consumables each day. And for battle, it's a free passive buff that deals AoE quantum damage and adds to her tooltip number. Or a skill. Has a minor debuff called Weaken with 120% base chance. This does not scale by level, by the way. That reduces enemy damage dealt by 10% and increases Cipher's own attack by 30% for 2 turns. This is mostly used for a switching patron, but also useful for that attack buff in case you're about to ult. Not super necessary though to have it for that ultimate, because the tooltip damage is already set and unaffected by Cipher's stats. It'll only impact her base ultimate damage. Alright, now onto her ultimate. So this is where all of her kit complexity lies. It has 2 attacks. The first is pure single target damage, and the second is half blast, half bounce. 100% of her tooltip damage is basically split into these attacks as true damage. 25% here and 75% here. 25% goes to the primary target, and then 75% goes to the remaining enemies up to 3 after the 25% split equally. If 3 enemies are alive, you get 25 for each and 25 to the main, so it's 25, 50, and 25. If 2 enemies alive, you get 37.5 per each, and then 25 to the main target, which is 62.5. And if only 1 enemy is alive, you get all 100% true damage on that 1 enemy. So her base damage is also split in that way, but it's pretty small compared to her true damage, so this is better visually so that you guys can see. The way that her ultimate works is actually really good because it limits the wasted overkill damage as long as you use it properly. This is user dependent, so if you do play on auto, it's not really friendly, it'll just use it right away. You may also notice that because her ult works this way and uses stored damage, it's not optimal to constantly spam it. It's best used precisely when only the major enemies are left, and can also be used to bypass boss phases due to the true damage and the nuke potential if there's only 1 enemy left if you have enough stored damage. Personally, I quite enjoy this design, and the nuance for her ult usage is really cool and also very useful as a potential cheese tech. There's no limit for her stored damage, by the way, so you can stack it as long as you want. I'm sure there'll be some funky YouTube videos or shorts that show some crazy Cipher nukes with this. Overall, I find her kit easy to learn but difficult to master. It's mainly about her ult timing, which takes a bit to get used to, and when the right time to min-max the damage is. Her gameplay is very straightforward though, and it's basically just your team increasing the number and she just basics or uses skill occasionally. Alright, now onto her trace nodes, which unironically have the most important parts of her kit hidden all there. A2 Trace. When her speed meets thresholds, she gains increased crit rate and higher recorded value. So 140 speed gives her plus 25 crit rate and 50% more recorded damage. 170 speed gives her plus 50% crit rate and double the recorded damage. A4 Trace. Non-patron, so this is non-gold marked enemies, convert 8% of the damage done. With a 170 speed from A2 Trace, patrons give 24% from here, which is double up to 12%, and non-patrons give 16%. A6 Trace. Crit damage of her follow-up talent is plus 100%. And when she's on the battlefield, she gives 40% damage vuln to enemies. It's crazy how this, by the way, is a Trace passive, and it's not like a debuff or something, because that means it does not need effect hit rate, and it's also unremovable. Beyond these Trace nodes, she also gains 14 speed from these nodes, 14% damage bonus from these nodes, and 10 effect hit rate. The speed and effect hit rate are very useful for hitting A2 Trace threshold and EHR needs for guaranteed debuff landing, with the damage bonus just being extra since she'll be a solid sub DPS. For talent priority, you'll actually notice that the level scalings in these are only for the base damage multiplier, so you don't have to actually level anything if you only care about her utility. That being said, she still will be using all of her abilities rather frequently, so if you want extra chip damage, focus on talent, skill and ult, and then basic. Reason is because talent is guaranteed 1 proc per turn, and if your skill point usage is good, then you can spam her skill often, which is second most useful. And then ultimate is secondary because you don't actually spam this that often, and most of the damage is from her tooltip value. So this base value will probably not be as noticeable as you think. And then basic is basic, level it as you need. Alright, now let's talk about her Eidolons and if there's anything crazy going on in the first 2. As always, no Eidolon is ever needed, but some provide a lot of value at early stages that they could be worth considering. E1, her recorded value increases by 50% of the original value, so expect her true damage portion of her ults to be 50% stronger with the same damage done. She also gains an extra 80% attack from the talent proc, stacking with her 30% from her skill. E2, even more damage vulnerability with the same 120 base chance as the rest of her kit, so you get 40% for free and then additional 30% at a 120 base chance. This will be slightly diminished since we already have that universal 40%, and this is not AoE by the way, only enemies that she hits. Overall, nothing fancy at all from early Cipher Eidolons, just more damage. I think expected investment for her will be E0 S1 given her LC is quite strong. E3, E5, these are just trace levels. And then E4, more damage when the patron is attacked, not really anything special unless this attack also activates on hit effects. If it does, its utility will be quite useful for more debuff stacking. I don't know though, let me know in the comments if you know if this is true or not. E6, her talent follow-up attack becomes a mini nuke, records more damage from the attack, and also does not fully clear her tooltip value, meaning the true damage continues to scale the longer the fight goes on. It's very reminiscent of Hyacinth E6. Overall, I feel like there's really nothing truly special with these Eidolons unless you go all out on E6, in which case she is probably just an insane dual DPS with her town follow attacks and also her true damage not getting reset. With the trend lately of HSR character releases though, I think it's good that the bare minimum investment is all that you need for a cohesive character experience. Now let's get into her light cones. So Cipher is definitely more signature reliant than most characters. She is reliant on speed to reach 170 threshold, and her LC is the only Nihility light cone that provides a speed bonus. It also has def reduction debuff on a very high base chance and can reapply the debuff without stacking it. That even says it. This makes it the strongest universal debuff LC in the game, with 18% speed and up to 24% def shred. The only LC that you can consider using on Cipher that doesn't give her wasted stats is of course Pearls of Sweat. At S5, Pearls of Sweat also provides a debuff at a 100% base chance, which is settlable for her kit. She does not use a heavy amount of effect hit rate, crit stats, damage over time, or break effect, so most of the other Nihility light cones 4 or 5 star do not provide anything for her, which kind of sucks. For this reason, her LC investment is very restrictive and can only use these two. Her signature light cone is basically a 5-star version of Pearls of Sweat with slightly higher def shred and includes that speed bonus. Alright, relics. Cipher is going to be speed reliant until you can achieve 170 speed on a 4-piece set. So start with 2-piece speed for easy investment, and then you can upgrade from there if you wish. The 4-piece sets that are optimal for Cipher purely increase her damage. Best in slot will be Pioneer Divers, and she'll get instant debuff value with her patron icon, her weaken debuff from her skill, and her LC debuff. Alternatively, 4-piece Quantum will also be a go-to staple, even if the enemies are not Quantum weak. If they are, it will be best in slot. If they aren't, it'll be slightly weaker than Pioneer. For Planars, we've got a wide arrangement of useful choices. Most popular will be Lushaka to buff your main DPS. Alternatives include Glamoth, Izumo, and Salsodo, but those focus on her personal damage instead of buffing your carry. By default, these will be weaker unless you plan to make Cipher your real carry. Glamoth provides attack and damage bonus, Izumo provides attack and crit rate to the same path, and Salsodo provides crit rate and follow-up ult damage. Alright, so for main stats, she's got one primary build with decent alternatives. We have crit damage over crit rate body, we have speed boots, we have damage over attack orb, and we have attack over ERR rope. So she has built-in 50% crit rate, so crit damage body is way more optimal, and she doesn't need effect hit rate body since the effect hit rate needs are below 30% with built-in traces. Speed boots are to hit 170 speed, damage orb since she has a lot of built-in attack, and attack rope since she doesn't need to spam ult. She'll be holding her ult for the right timing a lot more often than you'll spam it, so that's why ERR rope is pretty wasted from that perspective. Also, once you have a decent full build, you'll also probably notice that her base HP is really low. So be careful, she is probably going to die arbitrarily, just like Tingyun in the past. Alright, team comps. So the most common usage for Cipher will be to support Acheron or Fei Xiao. Cipher will not be replacing Jiaoqiu in these Acheron teams because her stack generation is not higher, but she is a great extra Nihility, complementing them both pretty well. In this case, Acheron's new lineup with Amphoreus units will include Cipher, Jiaoqiu, and Hyacinth. Signature light cones are required here, especially for Hyacinth to continuously debuff, and all these characters are premium, so this is definitely an expensive lineup. Acheron spams her ultimate whenever it's up, and Cipher holds her ultimate to clean the battlefield in a meaningful way for Acheron ults to be less wasteful. For Fei Xiao, very high speed for high hit count, constant extra follow-up attacks, and 40% damage vulnerable aura all make her quite the appealing choice for this follow-up lineup. Combined with generally strong follow-up attack support like Robin, and you benefit both from Fei Xiao's damage but also Cipher's ult nuke damage. A new premium team looks like follows: Fei Xiao, Robin, Cipher, and Aventurin. So you'll notice in this team comp that Topaz is going to be replaced by Cipher. In this case, it's just an alternative use. They're both pretty good, just depends on what you prefer. All these units have heavy follow-up interaction, providing Fei Xiao with excessively high ult spamming similar to the Acheron comp. These two archetypes are the main benefiters from Cipher's release that are not Amphoreus focused. This leaves your other teams quite open to using stuff like Tribi, RMC, or Sunday, and other Memos right-oriented playstyles. Alright, so that being said, similar to Tribi though, I think that Cipher's splash potential as a general standalone supportive unit is very strong. She has universal damage vuln and true damage that scales with your allies' attacks. So no matter how they scale, she'll still be present as a sub DPS. Recent releases like Castorice, Anaxa, Maide, Tiherta, and Aglaya all can greatly benefit either just from Cipher herself or duo with Tribi and forgoing Action Advance. Now, this is still content dependent though, because Action Advance is super valuable for doubling the turns of your carry, and double stacking Tribi and Cipher means their aura buffs have less value. In general, I feel that Cipher's kit is a balance between debuffs and damage in a controllable fashion. The stronger your team, the stronger Cipher's ult, and combined with her similar auras to Tribby, she's a really strong splash unit for most team comps. Alright, so is she recommended to pull? With the big collab in the horizon and some really coveted characters in the future, it's difficult for me to recommend Cipher to low spenders. I do really personally like her kit. I think it's a great alternative to other premium characters, but the problem is nowadays we have so many premium characters. With potential Finon drip on the horizon, combined with fake collab characters, it's going to be quite a desolate wasteland for that wallet. Combined with her LC being so powerful, she's not as FTP friendly as you'd really like to see. I think spenders who want to collect everyone, she's great. Really strong in specific teams and really cool playstyle for big numbers. So if you want a fun project with specific best in slot synergies, Cipher is great. If you're on the fence and looking forward to collab characters or possibly bigger drip marketing, then I'd hold off. It's a shame, because I'd like to recommend her because she's a cat girl and really cool, but yeah, the reality is it's too expensive to get everyone. Overall, I think Cipher is a fun project. Unfortunately, not really FTP friendly, but it does revive all compositions with a fresh team lineup. Playstyle is simple, ult is strong, and it's fun to min-max. Alright, let's get into some quick showcases. Alright, so first of two showcases I prepared for you guys. First is going to be a classic Acheron setup with Jiao, Cipher, and Gallagher, and second is going to be an Emporia setup around Castorice. Now, for these showcases, the team comps are going to be semi-premium, using E6 Gallagher for sustain, but also using a premium support like Jiao alongside Cipher. Now the reason is because most of the time, if you're picking up Cipher, she's going to be that third extra slot in an already situated team that you have. This way you can see exactly how Cipher benefits these team comps and also a little visual understanding of how you can greed her ult for min-maxing damage purposes. Cipher does have a passive technique, so we'll just set up like usual and enter with our main carry. Alright, entering a battle, pretty standard here. Now, you'll notice one small thing. I place Cipher at position 4, and that's because, as you can see, she's really squishy. So, in the previous tests that I've done, I've actually put her in second slot because I usually do main carry and then support and then abundance character or sustain in the last slot. But in those situations, she actually died more often than not. So putting her in the fourth slot reduces her chance of being hit ever so slightly from those blast attacks. So that's what we're gonna do here. All right, so first thing set up with Jiao. Going to E and then ultimate right away so we get those Ash and Rose stacks. And then right afterwards, I'm going to ult with Acheron. All right, so now I'm gonna ult with Acheron just so she doesn't overcap too hard. So unfortunately, our Crimson Knot stacks are not on the right patron target, but that's okay. Alright, so now I'm going to focus on this guy here. We can just basic with her. Again, we're not going to need to fully generate her ultimate as soon as possible because we are greeting her ultimate for a very precise timing here. So we're going to go ahead and Gallagher basic attack here. We should get a hit. We should get his ult from a blast attack like this. And then he's going to set up. We're going to continue waiting. Cypher's being targeted and about to die, but that's okay. Alright, so now we're going to go with this. We're going to ult. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go Gallagher. Alright, basic here. Can Jiao E or basic? I think basic is okay. I'm going to basic here. No, we're going to basic. Alright, so in this case, we have an extra skill point here. I'm going to go ahead and E. Alright, her ult will be ready here. And as you guys can see, she does have 322k. You just see this number multiplied by 1,000 is approximately how much it will do. Alright, so in this case, we could use Cipher to kill both. But ideally, actually what I want to do here is I want to kill this off and use Cipher's ult on just this guy. That is our ideal situation here. So I'm going to go ahead and basic here into ult. And then with this, we can go Acheron. Okay, so now we're in Acheron. Blast to this guy. Okay, so now only one enemy's left. And this is the patron now. So we have 416k here. I'm going to go and proc this. So this gives maximum value on this, right? So in this case, we're able to squeeze out maximum value without wasting it and push us into a second wave with only using one cycle for Acheron. Probably could min-max a little bit, but I don't think 0 cycle for this is possible. We probably need someone like Casto. All right, so now what's important is we want to have ults ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and E since we have SP. We have additional SP right now. I'm gonna go ahead and Acheron E here, and then Cipher can just basic, not really too pressed. And then Jiao Qiu, we're gonna E to get his ultimate a little bit further to getting ready. All right, so that's the follow-up attack. And then here, he should be dead once he returns to form. There we go. Okay, so second wave, we have this ready. I'm gonna wait for him to summon the dudes first. All right, so the dudes have been summoned here. Okay, so unfortunately the Crimson on stacks are all on this guy, even though Patron's on the mob. That's just how it is. Okay, so we have 3 refunded points here, which is very nice. I've already killed the ads, and you can see Acheron is almost ready to ult again, which is kind of insane. We're focus firing this guy. All right, Jiao Qiu, we have additional skill points. We should be able to ult right after this. Very nice. So this will immediately push Acheron into ult range, which we're going to do right now. And just the amount of stack generation is so high with this team that we can do this constantly. Gallagher's going to be ready. I'm going to wait for when I need to use it here. Let's heal up Jiao Qiu in case. All right, so this is ready. Ideally, we want to use Basada when he summons all the ads. So we're going to greed a little bit here. All right, so he's going to generate his little extra dudes here. All right, perfect. Let's go get this up. Now we get full value of Basada. Okay, basic attack like usual. We're 8 stacks here. Cypher's gonna go and we can immediately go into Acheron's ult. There we go. Now we're gonna save her ult as expected. Okay, beautiful. We're just looking for ult generation here. I do not want to use Cypher's ult because there's still too many ads on the field. All right, so left one dead, left one dead. Now here's an interesting part. Do I want to use ultimate here? I could. I don't think that we lose a lot of value from it. What would be cooler is if you did force phase 2, you could see a big nuke. But I'm gonna go ahead and use it here because I think it's pretty good timing. I don't think we're gonna waste any damage. So let's do that. All right, so we pushed it 20 to 1% and pushed the ad to 20%, and then Acheron is 7 stacks. Go ahead and basic. I think we can interrupt. If I go Gallagher E, because if I basic attack, I won't get Gallagher's ult in time. So I think I want to E here. It's gonna be much closer. And then we're gonna get an Ashen Rose stack here, and then generates the ads, which is perfect. Now Acheron can go. Okay. Okay, so now we push into second phase here, which is very nice. Or not. We're like 1 HP from doing it. All right, come on. I'm gonna go ahead and Jiao Qiu here. Okay, this is good. Resetting his ultimate. Now second phase. Gallagher's almost has ult ready. Really close. Okay. 7 stacks here. 8 stacks, and then... Okay, so we're gonna have enough. Here we go, 9 stacks. Still waiting for Gallagher. He hasn't been able to go yet. Very nice. Okay, so we've killed all the ads. Very good. I'm gonna go ahead and Gallagher basic here, and then wait to ult after he summons his ads. We'll do right now. Alright, 5 stacks. 6 stacks. 7 stacks. 8 stacks. Cycle. Jiao Qiu 1 basic. 9 stacks. Let's send it again. Alright, so getting all the ads down. Cipher has 426k saved. At this point, I do want to push Cipher's ultimate. So we're going to need 2 E's to do that, but we might honestly kill it with Acheron because the stack generation is so fast. There we go. 7 stacks. 8 stacks. 9 stacks. Okay, I think it's dead. Dead or close to dead. 9%, 650k recorded. Okay, basic here. All right, we can just go ahead and do this. Okay, and then we'll go. Pretty good. just before the cycle ended. Could have been a little bit cleaner, but overall, I think you basically see how Cypher's ult can be used at more efficient timings. In that particular case, maybe we could have saved it because it looks like the second Cypher ult that we did was kind of on the tail end. So probably would have been more efficient to fully blast through phase 1 and then use a big 600 to 800k Cypher ult and then chunk phase 2 down to like 50% HP or something. But overall, solid. 3 cycles. Let's move on. All right, so now we're back with the Castorice side. And as you guys can see, the team comp is fairly similar, except for the main DPS swap, which is Castorice, and the support swap from Jiaoqiu into Tribi. So in this particular comp, we do not have an action advancer. So we're going for maximum damage output, and Cypher is going to help Castorice clean up some shitty mobs. But for the most part, in this particular comp, you might consider running an action advancer if you prefer to do that. In this case, we're just going to run Tribi Casto with E6 Gallagher and then Cypher. So in this team, we have Cypher, passive technique, Tribi, passive technique, and Castorice, and Gallagher are actives, so we're going Castorice. Alright, so leading off, gonna blow another wing out here. You can see the patron number ticking up already. That's the follow-up attack. All right, so now most of the time we only care about Gallagher's Besotted. So Gallagher's ultimate is where our skill points are gonna go. Castorice does not use any skill points, and Tribi will be generating skill points. So we're neutral. Cypher in this team comp can either use basic or E. It depends on how many skill points you have. In this particular case, we do have enough skill points, so I'm gonna go ahead and E here. Now we have Tribi ult. Get that up as soon as possible. Another Fua. All right, now we can Gallagher basic. A blast attack. Okay, now let's go ahead and Gallagher. 26%. And then Besotted will go into, okay. So 69% into Gallagher. 92%. 96%. And then 100%. Now we blast. Tribi's passive is just going crazy here. And then Fua. Now we go full blast here. You can see the patron stacks are ramping up very, very fast. Alright, so all those ads are dead here. Since there's only one enemy left, this is a great time to use Cypher's ultimate. We're going to do an extra 440,000 here. Beautiful. And that basically pushes us into the next zone here. We're gonna just do some quick, let's see. Yeah, so Cass is gonna be able to kill. I can use E here since I have skill points, and also we want Gallagher's ult ready as soon as possible. Okay, so that was 0 cycle. I'm gonna go ahead and proc Tribi's ult here. There's no reason not to, since we're on the next wave and she's not gonna go for a while. 52%. We have skill points here. Let's charge up, make the patron the main. This should be getting good value here. We also get new bud from the recovery. 64%, almost at Gallagher's ult. Okay, so 69% into 86%. We are just shy. 88%. Okay, let's just proc this right now, because we are in a little bit of a low HP deficit here. Okay, I'm gonna interrupt everyone and use Castorice's ult because it's good timing too. Okay, there we go. You can see patron stacks are ramping up. We're at 300k already, 400k now. Okay, so now we interrupted Gallagher's ultimate. Besotted there is good. I'm gonna just basic here. I think we're saving our ultimate for next phase anyway, so it's fine. Tribi just basics. We still have a turn. Okay, that's the first cycle. Gonna proc the ult. Get more passes from Tribi. Okay, we have extra skill point here, so I'm gonna go ahead and E. Gallagher's gonna heal here. We're at 81%, and now we can go. Cypher's ramping up at this point, and we should be able to kill both of these guys. Okay, so the ad is dead, and we're also pushed to phase 2, and Cypher is up to 710,000. Okay, so we're gonna wait for all of these guys to go, and then proc Cypher. Oh, no, not proc Cypher. We want to get the ads, kill the ads first. So we're going here into tribute. We need to E. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Gallagher's gonna need to E. We're getting the split here, which is fine. So E into ultimate. Okay. Okay, looking good. Okay. Might be able to squeeze it in here. Okay, getting full value ult here. Gonna kill all the ads. And this also sets up for Cipher. Okay, and then now Cipher will go clean up with this 1.1 million true damage that we've stored up just before the cycle ends. There you go. And we did that right before the cycle ended, which is really nice timing. So that only took one cycle. That was pretty good. You can see how the stronger your DPS is, because we went from E0 Acheron into E0 Castorice. Castorice E0 form is way stronger, and that is just how it is. That allows Cipher to ramp up a lot faster. We were able to get 2 ults in basically 1 cycle there. 0 cycle from the first wave, and then 1 cycle from the second wave. Our first one was about 400,000 damage, and then our second one we saved up 1.1 million. Obviously, by that point, the swarm was already basically guaranteed dead, but it's still nice to see that you can really manipulate and min-max her damage output. Because basically, the boss was at like 90%, and then we sent Castorice in with her ultimate into Cipher's ultimate, and we killed it. So that is very nice. Alrighty, so that is going to wrap up our Cipher Early Access Showcase. In my opinion, I actually really like the way that she plays. I think her ultimate storage thing and her ability to basically use other people's damage for her own is quite fun. I think it is quite useful as well, considering that she is not a typical ult spammer that you would usually see in HSR. You actually wait for really proper timings, right? The best timings are obviously after the ads are dead, or in any elite mob summons trash mobs. Kill those trash mobs first so that you have the juicy tankier enemies that can always take as much damage as possible. This way you never end up wasting Cipher's ult. So those 2 showcases basically got the gist of it. At Acheron's side, we were struggling a little bit because Acheron's damage output is much lower than E0 Castorice, but that's to be expected. Overall, I think the great thing is that her gameplay itself doesn't rely on any Eidolons. They just increase her damage output, which is like, it's fine. Her light cone is very useful though, right? Nihility with speed percent and a double death shred here that basically can reapply, which is very nice for especially Acheron teams. So if you guys are looking for a splashable unit, I think Cipher is an excellent choice for that. Otherwise, as you guys know, HSR is getting some quite high profile characters in the future. We have Fate Collab coming up and we have Finon. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of Cipher. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys to showcase her capabilities. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys very much for watching. And as always, take care.